Look at this. This is my GoPro HERO9 Black Max Lens Mode. Just arrived a few moments ago. And now I'm recording with the Max Lens Mode. You can see that. In this video, you're gonna know everything about the Max Lens Mode. Can the GoPro HERO9 Black rivals most of the 360 camera in the market? Let's find out. My name is Xujun Guo. My YouTube channel is dedicated to 360 photography, video, and so much more. This is my GoPro Max Lens Mode. The box is very big. When you open the box, you're gonna see that the Max Lens Mode is actually super tiny, super small, and it stays right in the middle of the box. How to install on your GoPro HERO9 Black is rotate in counterclockwise and remove the protection lens. Align and rotate in clockwise 90 degrees and lock it in and take out the rubber lens protector. And now this is a GoPro Max with my GoPro HERO9 Black. When you put on your GoPro Max, don't lose your lens cover because it is a very good protection lens. And your protection lens stays right inside the back door of your lens mode, and you can also put it with care. You're gonna have some configuration in GoPro HERO9 Black. So first, scroll down and turn on the Max Lens Mode, the Max Photo, Max Time Lapse, and the Max Video. On Max Video, now we have the 2.7K. 4:3, you only got 25 frames per second. You shot 16:9, 2.7K, 15 FPS in PAL. So there is a killer feature about the Max Lens Mode. It's a horizon lock. You turn on the horizon lock, your footage will always be aligned with the real horizon with perfect stabilized. There's a GoPro Hero Media Mode with 3.5 microphone jack and HDMI port. And with a Rode wireless Go, I can put it on top as a wireless lavalier microphone system. And also this is a Ulanzi MT-08 or Ulanzi MT-30 on the side as a fill light. So vlog with yourself with a front screen and also a mini tripod also designed by Ulanzi. Okay, next up, I'm gonna take out my 360 cameras. Insta360 One R with 360 build. Insta360 One X2, my favorite. Kandao QooCam 8K. So can the GoPro HERO9 rivals this top-notch 360 camera on the market? Let's find out. To take a shot with the Max Lens Mode, you're gonna have a brand new angle of view. It's a Max Super View. It's around 155 degrees FOV, and everything will be horizontally locked if you turn on the button on the screen. And every time you rotate your camera, your footage will look solid stable. It's just like overcaptured a reframe video from 360 camera. But everything was done directly in the camera. With the GoPro HERO9 Max Lens Mode, you're gonna have 2.7K, 15 FPS at most. Everything was done directly in the camera, so you're gonna FP4 file with a solid stable. So even you run, you walk, surf, anything you want. Even you can turn it to the other hand in the sky. It will be solid, stable. The horizontal line will never change. So this is just unbelievable. So it is very intuitive and super simple to use. Here are two bonus tips for the Max Lens Mode and GoPro HERO9 Black. Number one is always turn on Max Hyper Smooth for the best possible stabilization algorithm. Number two is always turn on the horizon lock, because with the horizon lock, not only can capture 16:9 conventional footage you can use it on YouTube, but also you can capture some social network vertical video 9:16 like this. Turn your GoPro HERO9 Black vertically and it will automatically lock the horizon with the vertical video. Now you will capture a social network vertical video directly from the camera. No matter how you rotate your camera, your footage will look super steady. One more thing about the Max Lens Mode, it is fully compatible with the GoPro HERO9 Media Mode. Microphone jack, HDMI output, and USB port on the back, like this. So I can put some light on the right and also a wireless microphone on the top. And I can also use the inbuilt shotgun microphone to the front or to the back. Challenge number one, I'm gonna capture 8K footage with my Kandao QooCam 8K with 10-bit color depth. Now I'm recording with the Kandao QooCam 8K and 10-bit color depth 8K footage, and the dual lenses design 8K footage, the QooCam 8K is still one of the best, considering its large sensor, 10-bit color depth, a huge amount of data to post-process. And with a 10-bit color depth, you can also make professional color grading at post. And regardless of your rotation or direction, you can always make a perfect stabilization with SuperSteady and the invisible selfie stick, considering the dual lenses fisheye design. For the Kandao QooCam 8K, in the post-process, turn on the QooCam Studio, import the footage, and remember to choose the appropriate stitching method. Here I use normal, and turn on SuperSteady, turn on defrange, color correction, optical flow, and turn on grid, line, back and forth. So check export. You can export in the ProRes because there's a 10-bit color depth. And here I use the ProRes 422 and export an 8K footage. Quality is really great. And after that, you can color correct, do some reframe with the Premiere GoPro FX reframe plugin to generate an excellent footage with SuperSteady. Challenge number 2 is I'm going to capture with the Insta360 One R modular system with the 360 build. And with my boosted battery and metal cage, I can capture directly, put it on my invisible selfie stick designed by Insta360. So with the One R 360 build, there is no single lens shooting mode. So I'm going to capture in 5.7K 30 FPS, and I'm going to use the flow state stabilization and free capture on the Insta360 Studio at post to generate the best possible quality. Considering there is no single lens shooting mode, I'm going to capture in full 360. With the help of desktop workflow, I can always generate with free capture to generate stabilized footage directly from the software, but not the hardware. Now in the post-process in the Insta360 Studio 2021, first import that INSV file, turn on dynamic stitch and chromatic aberration, set direction lock, calibrate if necessary to check back and forth the stitching quality, double check every frame while playback, and then export at 1080p set to the maximum bitrate such as 200 megabits per second or 100, and turn on Color Plus and export to your computer. Here comes the final challenge of the Inst360 One X2 with a brand new design single lens capture mode, that is so-called the super wide angle capture with 150 degrees, just like the Max. Before we get started, I do have some tips and tricks to share with you when we capture with the single lens shooting mode. Let's take a close shot. You can switch in between the 360 mode or the single lens shooting mode where you capture 150 field of view. And you can also switch back in between the front lens. This is the front lens and this is the back lens. You can switch the back lens. Now I'm going to use to capture myself and my camera. And for the frame rate, I always put it to the highest possible frame rate, the 1440p and 50 FPS in PAL. And the basic and Pro, I select to Pro because with the Pro mode, with the help of the post-process in the Insta360 Studio, I'm going to generate GoPro HERO9 style stabilized horizon lock footage. With the basic mode, although I could capture the MP4 file directly in the card, but it's not horizon locked. I'm going to select Pro mode, 1440p, 50 FPS. You can either choose to shot in the horizon 16:9 ratio or shoot vertically with 9:16. It's suitable for the Instagram or the vertical social network. Now I'm recording with the Insta360 One R, the 150 super wide angle mode, and I want to see if it works perfectly well with my hand rotating the camera, and I'm going to capture in the conventional 16:9. And with the help of the post-process, I think we can generate a so-called GoPro HERO style footage with horizon lock, but I just cannot get the perfect file directly from the card. I have to put the INSV file to Studio and then regenerate to apply the gyroscope, the flow state stabilization, and finally get a stabilized, perfect 16:9 footage. So now I'm capturing the live preview. There's just no stabilization. So I have to use in post to get the perfect stabilized footage. Here I've made a keynote for you guys. The name is Science Behind the Single Lens Shooting Mode. I want to explain how it works to get a stabilized footage, especially when you enable the horizon lock. That will help you get familiar, have a very deep understand about this single lens shooting mode, capture with your 360 camera or your GoPro HERO9 Max lens mount. I'm going to give you some spec sheet comparison as well as some very deep geometric analyzation. We have covered 4 of the cameras: the GoPro HERO9 Max lens mount, the Kandao QooCam 8K, the Insta360 One R, and the brand new Insta360 One X2. What happened with the single lens shooting mode all start from the imaging sensor. So all of the 4 cameras have been equipped with imaging sensor that has a ratio of 4/3. That is the imaging sensor, and based on the full sensor readout, these cameras are all excellent and at top notch in the portable action camera area. And they are the basic of the spec sheet of these 4 cameras. I have also made some investigation on what camera sensor they have been used behind their camera design. Here for the GoPro HERO9, they have utilized the latest IMX677. The GoPro HERO9 could actually capture a 5.3K resolution at 30 FPS. That is, the final resolution is the 5120/2880. For the QooCam 8K, this camera has equipped dual 1/1.7 inch sensor, each of the sensor with 20 megapixels to full sensor readout. So finally, this camera could capture the 8K Inst360 at 10-bit color depth. So this is really a monster camera. For the One R and the One X2, based on my investigation, they all equipped with the IMX577. That is a previous generation of the IMX677. The One X2 and the One R, they perform exactly the same with the 5.7K, 12 megapixels. There's dual 4K imaging sensors. So that is the reason why if you capture the photo with the Insta360 camera, you always get 1680/3040. That is because if each of the imaging sensor, the short edge is 3040. QooCam 8K has the IMX204, that is the largest in this group. So in this slide, I'm gonna explain how on earth a single lens could capture a horizon lock footage with insanely stabilized footage. This is the basic science for the 4/3 imaging sensor. For a single lens, they would capture a full circle right inside this imaging sensor. That is to say, we actually capture a circle inside this 4/3 image sensor. That will utilize a partial of the imaging plane. Within that circle, we're gonna crop again by rotating inside the circle of the imaging plane. We could compensate the dynamics for the camera, so that when you rotate inside the camera, you can always crop that part of the blue rectangle. And blue rectangle reflects the footage we could capture with the GoPro HERO9 or some other cameras. And we can rotate as long as we want. So, and that is the reason why even you put the max lens mode downwards, it could still capture a perfect horizon lock footage because every movement, every dynamic was calculated right within that imaging circle. So it could always capture that shot. So no matter how you capture that, with a very high sample rate, in the GoPro design, there is a 3K Hz sample rate for the gyroscope, accelerometers, bandwidth is very good. It's much higher than our movement in our daily life, even in action. So even if you have action like surfing or climbing or cycling, the movement locates right within 1K Hz. But the sample rate is actually 3K Hz. It's much higher. So you can compensate on each frame with super high precision. Imaging plane rotate, it's just like you rotate with your camera because you are shaking with your hand. And here, no matter how you rotate your camera, your footage will always be stabilized. That is the science behind the scenes. To be simplified, but actually it is much more complicated because there is so much to do for the scientist, for the engineer. Here it is that. No matter how you rotate, we always lock in place because there's a sample rate is very high, so it doesn't matter, it will be solid, stable. Here, let's take another example. If you want to crop a 16:9 ratio footage right inside the circle, and this is how it looks like in the circle. So we're gonna have a longer in the long edge, but shorter in the short edge. And no matter how you shake, it will be stabilized. That is the computational mad science. Here you can rotate. In this way, you can shot in vertical Instagram video and the lock on your horizontal line, the vertical line, and no matter how you rotate, you can always capture a vertical video with perfect horizontal line and the stabilized footage. If you understand the science behind the scenes, next question is how to calculate resolution. So actually, it is a very simple geometric problem. If you look closer at the diagonal of the two rectangles, they are pretty exactly the same with the short edge of the imaging sensor, right? With a ratio of 4/3 or 16:9, we can calculate based on these numbers. For the GoPro HERO9, theoretically speaking, it could capture 3.5K stabilized footage with the max lens hood. So if the 4K, if the 5K full center readout is still working with the GoPro Max lens mode, actually we can create 3.5K, but actually we didn't. I will talk to that later on. And for the QooCam 8K, there is no single lens shooting mode at this moment, but I hope in the future we could have this feature by the firmware upgrade. I do hope so, the Kandao engineer. And for the One R, there is also no single lens footage, but we get it back on the One X2. On the One X2, and I've shown you previously in my slides, there's a maximum is 1440p. That is 2.7K with a super sample from these numbers. Yeah, and the next question is how to calculate the frame rate. So what is a frame rate? First, let's take a look at the amount of data you have to read out from imaging sensor. So by cropping a circle from this rectangle imaging sensor, with that has been said, we can set two blind areas on the left and the right, and we skip these lines and we only read out the purple square from our imaging plane. If that amount of data is less than a half of the image plane, which means we could double the frame rate. But actually, it is only 75% of all the pixels. So it is more than half, 15%. So we cannot double the frame rate with the conventional numbers. But we can still set blind areas to reduce amount of data we read out from the imaging sensor. For 360 cameras, there are two imaging sensors right in the body, and if we focus on a single imaging sensor, we can use the two ISP to perform relay readout to double the frame rate. Or we could focus all the computational resources on a single imaging signal processor to double the frame rate. So that is the reason why on the 360 cameras, when we are captured with a single lens shooting mode, usually we have a double frame rate. For example, for the One X2, we get a 3.5K, a 3.7K with a maximum 60 FPS. And for the One R, theoretically speaking, you also have this feature, but there's no latest firmware yet. And the QooCam 8K is a really monster beat at this moment because in theory, the QooCam 8K could capture a 3.5K at 60 FPS with a single lens on the front or the back. But unfortunately, there's no firmware yet. We can predict this feature in the future. That theoretically speaking, this camera could capture such high spec with only a single lens. And for the GoPro HERO9, the pixels is almost the same as the QooCam 8K, but with a single ISP and a single imaging sensor, even if we perform a 5K readout, we could only get a 3.5K 30 FPS on a single lens. And that is the reason why the GoPro guys didn't give us this number, because there's only 30 FPS. But I still want to get this number with future firmware upgrade. The GoPro HERO9, the imaging sensor, the IMX677 also have another readout mode. We could achieve the 4K 30 FPS and with a full sensor readout, super sample inside imaging sensor. So with a 4K readout, that is the same with the Insta360 cameras. With GoPro HERO9 with max lens hood, the 2.7K maximum at 16 FPS. But this 2.7K is super sampled from the 3.5K, so the imaging may look a little bit sharper compared with the Insta360 camera series. For the GoPro HERO9, the imaging sensor has a higher pixel density, so with the super sample technology, we have a little bit sharper footage even with the same spec sheet. My analyzation, personally speaking, QooCam 8K, it's a real beast, a real monster, because the hardware is just so powerful, the imaging sensor is large, and in theory, we could really get 3.5K at 60 FPS. That is insane, it's breathtaking. And the GoPro HERO9 still has a little bit more potential with a future firmware upgrade to unleash the 3.5K 30 FPS with the GoPro HERO9 Max lens mode. That is my personal prediction. Let's make a summary about this analyzation and calculation. But the GoPro HERO9, the user experience is really great. Everything is happening in real time, even if the stabilization. In the live preview, there is a real-time horizon lock. We turn on the horizon lock in the live preview, it is actually working. And there is no post-processing need. Just copy and paste the MP4 file, you are good to go. But for the QooCam 8K, by far, you have to use the SuperSteady, the SuperVlog, and generate a 4K reference footage with your cell phone. And for the One X2, with the 150 degrees wide angle, the basic or pro mode, actually I prefer pro mode, even though the workflow is a little bit longer, but you get a GoPro HERO9 style footage with one more step in the. And for the One X2, we can also use the flow state stabilization together with free capture to get the stabilized footage. For the One R, you can also capture with flow state and free capture in the Insta360 Studio, but only could achieve 1080p and maximum 200 megabits per second in the studio. Okay, to wrap up about this video, about these 4 cameras, the GoPro HERO9 Black with the max lens mode, I like it very much because it's so simple, so funny to use, and the quality is just great. The 2.7K is actually a super sample from the full sensor readout footage, looks really sharp. For the Insta360 One R and One X2, for the One R there is just a no single lens shooting mode, but with the help of the app and studio, we know that Insta360 has a very good user-friendly workflow, so it's not that hard to make a stabilized footage for your everyday life. For the Insta360 One X2, if captured with a single lens in Pro mode, not in Basic, but in Pro mode, and with one more step in the Insta360 Studio, it's so easy to generate a horizon lock effect, just like the GoPro HERO9 Max. And the QooCam 8K is actually a real monster, but there is so much to do in the firmware in the future. I do hope the Kandao engineer could see this video and consider to add these more features. By far, in theory, the QooCam 8K could produce the best possible overall result with 3.5K 60 FPS in theory. I do hope this will happen in the year 2021, and I still have a lot more expectation about these cameras, and I will constantly share with you the latest update about the QooCam 8K. There's one more camera that is absent in this side-by-side comparison. That is the Ricoh THETA Z2. Actually, for the one inch sensor, pixel number is the same with the QooCam 8K, but with a larger sensor, optic system, optic design for the THETA Z2 is capable to deliver the same spec sheet with the QooCam 8K, but hardware is a little bit less powerful compared with QooCam 8K, and that is, I think, that is where we could expect for the Ricoh THETA Z2, or we could say the Z1 Mark II. I think the year 2021 is a really exciting year for all these coming new features and all these new cameras coming to the market. On my channel, I will constantly keep you updated with the latest news, review bonus tips and tricks for you to master your 360 camera like never before. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to thumb up, subscribe, and hit notification bell. More to come in the future. Until next time, bye.